Jets, I hear them say it now.
Jets, white, green, just green and white. Tell me, have you ever seen a team take flight? Super Bowl dreams are still in sight. All we gotta do is win tonight. White, green, just green and white. Tell me, have you ever seen a team take flight? Super Bowl dreams are still in sight. All we gotta do is win.
What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back for another video on the Turn Up the Jets YouTube channel. We have the Jet Fuel Podcast episode 9 heading your way. But before we get into the episode, I am your host, as always, Joe Skirdo, aka Turn Up the Jets. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Like the video if you actually liked it. And you could also follow me on social media platforms like X and Instagram at Turn Up the Jets, all one word. This episode kind of previewing a little bit of the NFL trade deadline, and the Jets name has been involved a little bit with rumors and then really realities as well as we head into week 6. The Jets preparing for a battle on Sunday against the Philadelphia Eagles at 4:05 Eastern time, I believe. I will be previewing that, rather. I will be recapping that too, but I will be previewing that. That video should drop either Friday night or Saturday morning / afternoonish. And then, yes, I will recap it like always on Monday. But yeah, kind of want to shift gears for this episode, a little different. Don't really want to talk much about the season. We know the Jets are 2-3. I talk about it every game, and I talk how the Jets are progressing or regressing and lose my mind and all. But yeah, the NFL trade deadline is exciting. It's trending that way. It's trending towards where the MLB trade deadline is and has been for a long time. You could say what you want about baseball, but the trade deadline is usually pretty exciting. And the NFL kind of stole the show last year. Guys like CMC moving to the 49ers and Calvin Ridley going to the Jaguars, Roquan Smith moving to the Ravens, even Kadarius Toney to the Chiefs, and Robert Quinn to the Eagles. A lot of moving pieces last year, and honestly, I think it's going to be about the same or even a little crazier. I think as years go on, this deadline will get crazier and crazier. At least that's where it's trending towards, at least leading up to the last few years. But last year, definitely one of the crazier NFL trade deadlines in recent memory. So let's start it off by kind of talking more so about the reality and not really so much the rumors. Mecole Hardman's name has been tossed around a lot, especially this week. And it came out that, according to The Wire, I believe, the Jets are currently shopping the first-year Jet wide receiver. And this is interesting. This is a guy who signed for a 1-year, $4 million contract, and then hours later, the Jets ship off Elijah Moore, a third-year receiver from Ole Miss, to the Cleveland Browns. Yes, I think they get that second-round pick to gear up for, of course, that big trade that they made. We know who the trade they made for. I'm not even going to say his name. I get depressed every time I say it. But it's interesting because Mecole Hardman, this was a guy in 2019 coming out of school. He was a Pro Bowler, and yes, more so special teams, but a very versatile receiver because he can run the ball. He can catch the ball and go for 80 yards in any given time, a explosive player. And that's really what the Jets, I think, were aiming to get, because Joe Douglas loves the home run hitters. Robert Saleh always talks about the home run hitters. And at that moment of time, the Jets had Garrett Wilson and Lazard and Elijah Moore, but they really viewed him as that home run hitter type of wide receiver. So it's really interesting now that the Jets are shopping him. This is a guy who did not play a single snap on opening day. I think he played about 30% of snaps on week 2. And then he played almost under 10% snaps in week 3 and 4 and didn't even play in week 5. He was a healthy scratch. So 1 catch, 6 yards. That's all he's had. That is what you're paying $4 million for. It's disappointing because I think a lot of people are saying, why the hell aren't the Jets using Mecole Hardman? Listen, I think we failed to realize when Rodgers went down, as I said his name, when Rodgers goes down in week 1, they have to change their entire offense. I mean, it wasn't that what we were complaining about when Wilson stepped in. Like, this can't be the Aaron Rodgers ran offense with Zach Wilson. It's never going to work, and he's just going to continue to get even worse. Props to Nathaniel Hackett. They have changed a lot of what they looked like in week 1 or even in the preseason leading up to the season till now. A lot of 12 personnel. You see a lot of times you see Conklin, you see Ruckert, you see Uzama, sometimes even on the field at the same time to 12 personnel. A lot of motions, a lot of this type of personnel and type of offensive play that the Jets have shown, especially over the last 2 weeks, they don't really match the skill set of Mecole Hardman. You could say, why haven't he been getting the jet sweeps that an Xavier Gibson has been getting? Listen, I think the Jets are in love with Xavier Gibson, minus the kind of the trouble of holding on to the football last week. It's going to happen. He's an undrafted rookie. I think he has performed at a much higher level than we could have ever imagined through the first 5 weeks. I mean, the dude had a walk-off touchdown in week 1. You can't get better than that. But I think the Jets really love Xavier Gibson, and a lot of people fail to realize this wasn't the offense the Jets thought they had going into signing Hardman than they do now. I mean, they haven't ran a lot of 3 wide receiver sets, and I could see why people are getting frustrated. Why in the hell is Randall Cobb out there over Mecole Hardman? And again, it's all about the strengths. And listen, I'm just going to trust in NFL coaching staff. You can say what you want, but I'm just going to trust it as I sit on my couch. There's a reason why Randall Cobb is the 3rd receiver and Mecole Hardman isn't. The Jets see him practice every day, and there's a reason why they chose to willingly put an undrafted rookie over him who they're paying $4 million. Like, I don't even know what his salary is. It's got to be like $700K compared to $4 million. Big difference. But there's reasons behind that. But I think the main thing is that they changed the way they ran things on offense once A-Rod went down. And I get it. I think it sucks that they have to move on, because I really expected a lot from Hardman. I thought he was going to be a special teams guy. He showed really good flashes of it. Heck, he was a Pro Bowler, as I mentioned, in his rookie season. But it makes sense, but at the same time, I get why people are furious, because if you look at it, the Jets with Garrett Wilson, Lazard, Cobb, and then what, right? It's pretty slim, but you really only see Gibson out there as the 4th. There's not a lot of times that you see the 5th or 6th string receiver out there for the Jets. I mean, Brownlee has been basically non-existent as well. The Jets offense has been really just tailored to 2 to 3 wide receivers, and that's it. That's why Hardman has been the odd man out. Do I think they should at least play him? Yes, the healthy scratch with both him and Lawson were really odd moves to me. Yes, I think it gives them a fumble recovery on the special teams because they benched, because they scratched Hardman, but like, that's still a lot of money just not to play while they're both healthy. So that is an interesting move. And it is an unfortunate situation, but at this point, yes, I guess you do trade Mecole Hardman. I'm not sure what you can get for him, though. It's one of two things. Do you want a 6th round or a 5th round pick, or do you want to just try to see what you got? I think they should give the old-fashioned, what do they call it? The old-fashioned try. In terms of just seeing where they can implement him. Saleh has been saying, Saleh's just bullshitting you at this point. They're not trying to implement him in the offense. The Jets are satisfied where they are right now. Yes, it's not perfect, but they're trending in the right direction. I don't think they're going to force themselves to put in Mecole Hardman because people want him because people want him on the field. I just don't think that's the reality here. So I would trade Hardman if you're not going to play him. It's kind of a waste. And I didn't really put it in this graphic type of thingy, but Carl Lawson too. I just mentioned him. He's another guy that I think could be a trade candidate. And to be honest, though, I think you lose his value. He's already been banged up. He has underperformed. He did have 7.5 sacks last season. I was kind of high hopes thinking he could be a double-digit sacker. Obviously, that was a cold take. And now you are sitting him when he's finally healthy. Like, this guy has struggled mightily to stay healthy. He tears his Achilles in training camp right after you signed him in free agency. And then last year, it kind of took him a few weeks, and then he started getting into a rhythm. And then this year, he hurt his back. He was out week 1. But after that, supposedly he's been healthy. So I'm really unsure about that too. A lot of money you're giving that dude to just sit in street clothes and not play and not even dress. So those two guys, if you're going to healthy scratch them, you might as well trade them. And if you really think they're better off in street clothes, I guess you might as well take the late round picks. You might as well compile those and see if you can screw around and flip those in another deal, maybe towards an offensive lineman or another position, in which I'll kind of talk about as the last topic of the episode, as I'll be really discussing whether the Jets are buyers or sellers. But if they're going to healthy scratch these guys, you might as well trade them. So the Mecole Hardman overall, I definitely think it's kind of disappointing. I think the Jets could get all the help they need on the receiver side. I would rather not see Randall Cobb out there, but I do believe this is the stuff we don't see. There is a reason why Randall Cobb is playing and Mecole Hardman isn't. And no, it's not because he's Aaron Rodgers' boy or he's Hackett's boy. Like, no, they want to win games. It's because he's doing something better. It's because they obviously see he's a better fit for the offense. So it sucks, but it's the reality. And I'm not going to be a guy that like is just saying like the Jets are idiots. Why don't they play him? It doesn't make sense. Like, yeah, I definitely see that side of the argument, but I also see, there has to be something and why you don't play him, because they did change their entire personnel, after week one. La'el Collins is another name. He did visit the New York Jets yesterday. They worked him out, and then he stayed and worked out with the New York Giants today. And today is Wednesday. The former offensive tackle from the Cowboys, most notably and most recently, the Cincinnati Bengals. He was released. He was on IR, and I believe he's healthy. I mean, he's by far the best offensive lineman in the free agent market. If they want to go that route, I think you could still possibly go the trade route. I don't know who, but this would be a very good move, honestly. I mean, this is a guy who's played since 2015. This is a guy who started a lot of football games, and he is still, 30 years old. Why not take a chance? I can't imagine they're going to be having to throw a lot of money at him. This is a guy who has 86 starts in the NFL. I mean, why not? I mean, we can't guarantee that Dwayne Brown is going to come back and be suddenly better than what we saw a couple weeks ago. I don't have high hopes. I'm not too optimistic about that. So if you want to at least give a Max Mitchell a competition, I think La'el Collins would be a great addition. He is only 30 years old. It's not like he's a 38-year-old like a Dwayne Brown. So I'm all for it. I'm interested to see what he does. I don't know how many other teams had worked him out. This is really the first time I've heard his name since the Bengals released him right before the season. So I'm very fascinated about it. If I were to think, I mean, I think he would have a shot to play for the Giants or the Jets, but looking at the situations, I would be surprised if, situation-wise of, winning or losing, that he would pick the Giants over the Jets. I would be a little surprised just because, they're only one game apart, but the Giants have a brutal schedule coming up. The Jets have really almost passed their gauntlet after this Philadelphia Eagles game. Things will ease up a bit for the Jets. The Giants, it doesn't get much easier. They got to go play the Bills this week, and they're looking at a 1-5 possible record. The Jets, of course, 2-4 is very likely, but you get the point. I think the Jets are just more of a competitive roster at this point in time, and I do think he'll have a really good shot to at least get in there, play right tackle. If you go sign him, I would be crazy, not even crazy enough to say, but confident enough to say that I would just trust him to go right in and start. Maybe you give him a week, but him or Max Mitchell, an unproven Max Mitchell who's been very inconsistent. Hey, he did well last week, but then there were times that you just scratch your head like, dang, is he good or not? I really don't know. He's still a young player. He's still a fourth-round, second-year player. So I get it. He's still in the midst of his development, but I think I'm all for this. You can never have enough offensive linemen. It really gives you the opportunity not to throw Billy Turner in if you have to. No offense, but I'm not really feeling terrific if they have to play Billy Turner. And I don't feel super optimistic of just throwing Dwayne Brown into the starting lineup when he's back. I just don't. I mean, enough of this seniority shit. He proved that he clearly wasn't ready. It did not help him that he missed the entire training camp. And I had blabbed all offseason that, like, yeah, the Jets don't need to see him. They're just going to activate him at like a week before the year. They don't care. They're just going to throw him in there. And that's what they did. I get it at that point in time as a veteran, but it didn't work. And you got to realize it didn't work. He did not play. He did not practice or really play. He didn't play any preseason games. He didn't play in training camp. He didn't do anything, no workouts. He just went in there 2 weeks before Monday night, and he was atrocious the first 2 weeks. So and then he gets hurt. So like, I'm not confident at all in Dwayne Brown. Like I'm kind of over the Dwayne Brown experiment, if we're being completely honest. You know, if he came back, like, I wouldn't even change anything. But now there's only a shot, in my opinion, because AVT went down. But listen, if AVT was healthy, which I cannot believe he's not, if AVT was healthy, you don't change this lineup. You don't. I think Tittman has done a good job, a really good job for a rookie who they drafted as a center. This dude didn't play guard really at all at Wisconsin. I don't think we realized that. He could play it, but he didn't really actually play it. I think he played it like early on in his college career, but really in a game setting, he hadn't played this position since high school. So for him to go in there shows his versatility and shows his talent. So I wouldn't have moved him out of the starting lineup to put AVT back in guard, to put Dwayne Brown in left tackle. No shot. I wouldn't even move Mekhi Becton. Like, I'm over the Dwayne Brown experiment, which is, I really hope Lil Collins, comes and signs with the Jets. And I think if he does, it's going to be an indication of, hey, maybe this isn't going to be an automatic Dwayne Brown slides back into the lineup. No, I just don't want it to happen at all. But we'll see. This is a fascinating story. I was kind of surprised when I saw it, and it was like, I forgot all about this guy. He's got to be healthy now. He's still somewhat young. This is a really good starting, tackle. I mean, he's played for good teams. He's played for that really good Dallas Cowboys offensive line, and then obviously the Bengals go get him. Have a couple of years in Cincinnati, and then they released him, and that was kind of like, that's weird. They got rid of him, but I guess we'll have to see what happens with that. And to end the episode, it's kind of a shortish episode. Don't want to bore you. And this probably will be a bit of a rant here. Buyers or sellers at the deadline? As I mentioned, the trade deadline coming up, it's always the Tuesday after week 8. That's only in 2 weeks. Crazy enough. Listen, the Jets play Philadelphia. They got the bye week, and then they play the Giants. I would say, realistically, they should be 3-4. I think you at least split with one of those teams. And I mean, you probably think, okay, they lose against Philly and they beat the Giants. They're 3-4. The Jets, even 2-3 right now, the Jets absolutely should be sellers. I'm sorry. The Jets absolutely should be buyers. I was so confident in saying that. The Jets should absolutely be buyers. Especially the way the AFC has really underperformed. The Chargers haven't impressed me. The Bengals, obviously, are the Bengals. We talk about, we hear about, people talk about them every week. The Steelers have really bad juju on the offensive side with everybody in the freaking state of Pittsburgh, the city of Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is not a state. Pennsylvania is the state Pittsburgh is in. I passed 7th grade history. Everybody in the city wants Matt Canada fired. Everyone in the AFC South, I mean, I think there's only one team making the playoffs in that division. It's all over the place. I really don't know. Like, I think the Jets have a really good shot of still competing. They have a really good defense. They have some really good playmakers on the offensive side. So I think the Jets absolutely should be buyers. And I think the first thing I just talked about, Lil Collins, I think you got to put your eye towards the offensive line market. I have no idea who is on the market. I just want to blab about how the Jets should go and try to trade for an offensive lineman. And yes, you have guys like Lawson and you have guys like Hardman that you possibly could go and ship for maybe an offensive lineman, or maybe picks to put those picks towards to get an offensive lineman. But buyers, sellers, I really wanted to talk about one guy. And the Jets have really been linked, not personally, the Jets, or physically, I should say. The Jets haven't physically shown that they are interested in trading for this guy, but the media is certainly interested in having the Jets trade for this guy. And you know who it is. It's Kirk Cousins. His name has been thrown around. His name was thrown around when the Vikings started 0-2. Listen, this team is 1-4 in Minnesota, and they are now without their best player and Justin Jefferson for 4 weeks minimum. They play the Bears, they play the 49ers, they play the Packers, they play the Falcons, they play the Saints. It's pretty doable, but I mean, they don't have a shot. I don't think they have a chance in hell of where they were last year. I think there's better NFC teams this year. Honestly, you look at the 49ers and the Eagles have just been absolute juggernauts. I'm still not giving up totally on the Dallas Cowboys. That South is pretty tricky with all three teams with winning records, and the Saints, Bucks, and Falcons. The Lions are, I think the Lions are a wagon too. I would say the Lions are probably the third best team in the NFC. I just don't really see where the Vikings fit in. And to me, why would the Vikings try to win? As stupid as that sounds. Kirk Cousins is in his last year of his contract. We've heard it for the last few years. This was going to be Kurt's last year. Why don't you trade him? And why don't you just kind of eat the season and draft one of these stud quarterbacks coming up? This is a good quarterback class. So yeah, you're not going to get Caleb Williams. They're not that bad. They arguably could have beaten the Chiefs last week, and they think they're still a good team, but losing Jefferson, I think it just adds up. You're not going to really have to pay Cousins as much. I think you owe him probably, I saw $6 million. I think I saw on WFAN that Evan Roberts said $6 million. I don't know. I didn't really fact checked him. I did not fact check him. But I don't think you're going to have to pay a bunch of his salary. This is last year of his deal. His deal is expired. It's expiring this season. The main thing is, what do the Vikings want for him? And if Kirk Cousins will actually waive his trade clause. I don't know. I think, Kirk Cousins loves it in Minnesota, but he has to, come to realization that this is his last year in Minnesota, whether he wants to admit it or not. If I was the Jets, would I pursue Kirk Cousins? Yes, I would. And I think you're crazy if you said you wouldn't. I think you at least pursue him. I'm not saying go trade 3 first-round picks for him. See what their asking price is. See if Kirk Cousins would even waive the trade clause to come to New York for 1 year. This is a rental. This is a 1-year rental. You go back with Rodgers next season. And then you could say, oh, what if Rodgers comes back? I don't know. I mean, you start Rodgers, obviously, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think there is a 0.00%, 0.0001% chance that the Jets trade for Kirk Cousins. I don't think it's going to happen. I just needed to talk about it because that's all I've been hearing, all I've been reading in terms of where Kirk Cousins, and then the Jets name is always on the top. I get it. Zach Wilson has played nicely over the last 2 weeks. I think he played really well against the Chiefs. He played okay against Denver. I expected more. I mean, he had a better game against a better defense 2 weeks ago. This was the worst defense in the league. I would have liked to see him go for more than 199 yards and an interception. But they won the game. I think he's got to play better this week. We'll see what happens. But if we're talking Kirk Cousins could actually give you a chance to make a run here. I'm not saying they'll win the Super Bowl, Kirk Cousins. I'm just saying you at least got a chance to win a playoff game with Kirk Cousins. Do I think the Jets can make the playoffs with Zach Wilson? I think they could. I think it's possible. They literally almost did it last year, and then they lost 6 in a row. So obviously it's somewhat possible because their defense is so freaking good. And if Breece Hall is Breece Hall and he's going to get 20 carries a game, he's going to make this offense a lot better, and he's going to make Zach Wilson's job a lot easier. Zach Wilson had a good record when Breece Hall was on the field. He continues to have a good record when Breece Hall is on the field. So, but anyway, if you have the chance to get Kirk Cousins, it can't be because of Zach Wilson. I mean, it just can't. And I think this will be the reason, though. I don't think the Jets would be willing to say, oh, yeah, we're just going to, put him over Zach. I really think that, but it just shouldn't be. It should be a no-brainer that if you can get a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback, by the way, who's having a really good year. Let's pull up his stats. Like, yes, they're 1-4, but he has one of the worst offensive lines in the league. Yes, even worse than the Jets. And one of the worst defenses. He has 13 touchdowns, 1,400 yards, almost 1,500, 1,498. He has a 101.7 rating, only 4 picks, a 67.2 completion rate. I mean, the dude is playing really, really well, and his stats are lined up to have a career season. So imagine he goes to a better team like the Jets. They could possibly make a run. Seriously. So, yes, I'm all for the Kirk Cousins experiment, at least pursuing him. Do I think it's going to happen? No. But do I want it to happen? Yes. I mean, why wouldn't you? Literally, unless you have to give up a shit ton, and I get people are protected of these picks because you trade so much to get Rodgers, but I don't think it's going to be as much as we think. Like, for the Vikings, it's a win in trading him as well. Like, it doesn't really, not really money-wise, but to prepare for next season. Like, Kevin O'Connell's only a second-year coach. He came in there. Kirk Cousins was veteran in. He was, or not veteran in, what's it called? Grandfathered in already. Like, that was his quarterback. He had no choice. Now Kevin O'Connell could have a opportunity to develop a young quarterback in his system. So that is the win for Minnesota because O'Connell's going to be the coach next year. You can't fire him. They went 13-4 last season. But this is just going to be a really interesting storyline. I don't think Cousins is going to get traded. Never mind to the Jets, but it's just something that I need to just tell people, yes, I think the Jets should try to get Kirk Cousins. And if you say no because of if Zach Wilson is the reason, you're crazy. If you don't want to give up a lot of picks, okay, I get it a little bit, but let's hear them out. Let's see what their asking price is. Like, literally. So it should be a fascinating storyline. I just wanted to end the episode on that. Yes, I'm all for Kirk Cousins. I'll say it again. I am for it. It'll be something to watch for sure. But that's going to wrap up the episode 9 of the Jet Fuel podcast. Please, again, if you had watched all 27-ish minutes, God bless you. Like the video if you actually liked it. You subscribe to my channel. What else was I going to say? You could also follow me on Instagram and X. I only say this 5 billion times before every video. It's exhausting. But hey, I have to plug myself in. We're only 11 subscribers away from 300. Really appreciate all the support. Look out for the preview of the Jets-Eagles game. Excited, pumped up. Only a few more days away. Until next time, see ya.
Jets, I hear them say it now.
Jets, white, green, Jets, green.